Okay, so hey everyone, I am going to be sharing my discriminatory event or experience with racism, and I definitely would say mine's categorized as a discriminatory event because it more so is like a microaggression. So yeah, I didn't really place it under racism as a whole, but I definitely do think it was a discriminatory event, and it definitely was a microaggression because I didn't really acknowledge it fully until after it happened. So yes, so basically get into it. I used to work corporate, so I am still pretty young, but I used to work corporate, and it honestly, this is before I started in healthcare or dealing with patients and different things like that. So my everyday life was kind of going into meetings, giving presentations, and yeah. But I was also like an intern, so still doing all of this. So I just remember having one of my presentations for it was a professional development series for high school interns, and after the event, someone came up to me who was she was on my work team, and she had also just came into the team too, kind of with us, but she had a full-time position. So we're interns, but she actually got hired. So yeah, like she was like just a new member of their team. And she came up to me and she was just like, um, oh, you surprised me. You speak so well. I didn't know you could present yourself like that, or I didn't know you could really basically give a good presentation. And when it was said, the tone was kind of like in a cheery yet confusing manner. Like the tone was very direct, but it was like, oh, like I didn't even know you could. It seemed genuine and heartfelt, but even after it happened, and I'm like, okay, well, thank you, but it still makes you like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean you didn't know I could speak that well? What do you mean? You get what I'm saying? Like, you just met me. How could you even assume anything about me? And that right there kind of she made assumptions about me based on how I looked, or maybe how I act, or different things like that, without actually knowing who I am. And I couldn't realize that until it was already over. To me, my response to her was, oh, thank you, because honestly, I was uncomfortable. I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know truly what I was feeling in that moment. But it definitely made me feel singled out. It made me feel kind of less than, like I was being tested as to whether I deserved to be there, you know? So I would definitely say that's how I felt in that moment, and even a little bit of embarrassment, because it's kind of like, well, dang, like, what do you mean by that? Um, and although it was subtle, and I couldn't realize it until it was over, it stayed with me for a while, and the message was loud. Like that's all I could say. The message was placed on an extreme. It just put me in a lot of distress in a way, because this was my first time actually getting into corporate, and this was the first interaction that I had when I first got there. So it offset me. So yeah, but if I had to handle a situation like this today, I honestly, even going through the articles and the PowerPoints, and even being a DEI intern in my past, and actually having, and craziest part is the team that I was working on was a diversity, equity, and inclusion team. But I will save that part because I only have 5 minutes. So yeah, but that was insane. Now I would honestly take a second to figure my emotions out and figure out how I feel, and actually be able to acknowledge that situation before it even had a chance to escalate, or have it had a chance to get as far as it did. And I would let her know how it made me feel, and that even if it wasn't intentional, things like this shouldn't be said, because it could make someone feel a certain way, even if that's not your intention. And I would want to have that conversation with her. And I'll also maybe take it a step further to corporate if the conversation didn't work. But I do think even having a conversation, educate people on different biases that they may have and not even realize. I truly today feel comfortable doing that. Even, I think probably after looking through the information and looking through the PowerPoints and actually understanding what this event was to me, because before today I knew that it bothered me, but I didn't know what it was. My own biases related to this experience. It honestly, now I realize when I walked into different settings where I wasn't the majority, or I didn't have a bunch of people that looked like me or sounded like me or talked like me, I felt like I was going to be singled out because of it. I felt like I was going to be challenged. I felt like I was going to be looked at as, can I do it or not? And I think I think it's unfair to other people because I never really gave them the chance to kind of feel a certain way about me. I just kind of placed someone else's association or assumptions onto them as well. And I definitely don't think that was fair. And I also am just now understanding how much of a bias that could have even been, because that's not fair. How would I apply this into healthcare now, especially working with patients? So my phone actually died, but applications of this in my healthcare practice, I would honestly just want to make sure that I'm not stereotyping patients, or I'm not misinterpreting their behaviors or different things like that because of their appearance or how they might be acting, or making assumptions about them. To ensure this, I honestly keep educating myself, check my biases and stereotypes at the door, make sure I'm treating the patient as an actual patient and not just a race or a stigma or a stereotype or any implicit bias that I might carry about any single body. And I truly feel like just this experience, this video as a whole, and just taking this course, which really honestly focuses on cultural humility, will definitely help me easily activate some tips and tools to use when I do get in situations where I might have to first check myself before I even walk into the room. And even being able to actually check myself is empowering in itself. Yeah. So, some conclusions I reach from experiencing bias as a whole is that it definitely can be subtle. Like, even in my case, I didn't realize my microaggression until later on, but I also carried the impact that it had. I carried the emotions that it provoked, and I had to deal with that later on. I had to go home and sit with that. So I want to make sure that I'm actually being aware about other implicit biases or other things that I may be carrying that I'm unaware of, and I may actually put these emotions and these feelings onto someone else and make them have to sit with them. I definitely understand the ability to actually take control and take your story back. So even how I say I wish that I had the strategies and the tools to actually have a conversation about it, I now have that to be able to advocate for myself and easily express that this didn't make me feel comfortable, or I didn't like the way you said this. And there's actually a certain power in even being able to stand up for myself and speak up for myself without feeling like, nervous or caring about how that person might think about it. Just doing it for the sole purpose of respect. So yeah, I think this assignment as a whole has really just increased my awareness of implicit bias or microaggressions or different discriminatory actions or anything that might happen that sometimes we overlook or we misinterpret, that actually have lasting impacts on not just patients but people as a whole. And it makes me just want to be a better provider. So